Dear students, welcome back. Today we will enjoy a poem, My Mother at 66 by Kamala. This is the first poem in your textbook Flamingo. The poem, My Mother at 66, is one of the finest examples of human bonding, especially between a mother and a daughter. It brings out the pain and fear of the poet of losing her mother due to the harsh reality of life, death. Kamala Das was one of the most prominent female voices of the post colonial era. She wrote in Malayalam as well as in English. To her Malayalam readers, she was Madhavi Kuti, and her English patrons, she was Kamala Das. On account of the extensive contribution to poetry, she earned the label the mother of modern Indian English poetry. She has often been compared to Sylvia Plath because of the confessional style of writing. Her autobiography, My Story, remains till date the best selling women's autobiography in India. Dear students, this is the picture of Kamala Das with her mother, Nalapattu Balamani Amma, another renowned Malayalam poetess. The poet and her mother. Now let's go to the poem My Mother at 66 by Kamala Das. Driving from my parents' home to Cochin last Friday morning, I saw my mother beside me, doze, open mouth, her face ashen like that of a corpse, and realized with pain that she was as old as she looked, but soon put that thought away and looked out at the young trees sprinting and merry children spilling out of their homes. But after the airport security check, standing a few yards away, I looked again at her, worn, pale as a late winter's moon, and felt that old familiar ache, my childhood's fear. But all I said was, "See you soon, Amma." And all I did was smile and smile and smile. Now, let's go to the poem in detail. Driving from my parents' home to Cochin last Friday morning, the poet was traveling from her ancestral home at Thrissur to Cochin airport. While traveling, she notices that I saw my mother beside me, doze, open mouthed, her face ashen like that of a corpse. While traveling, she notices that her mother, who was sitting beside her, next to her, was dozing. Dear children, dozing means to take a short sleep. We call nap. N-A-P, nap. She notices that her mother was sleeping, dozing, with her mouth open. Her mother's face was so pale. It looked as lifeless as that of a corpse. Corpse means dead body. Her face ashen. Ashen means very pale. The mother's face was ashen, was pale, lacking life, just like that of a dead body. The poet brings out the fact that the mother has lost all the energy and vitality of her life. There is a figure of speech there. The expression face ashen like that of a corpse The poetic device used there is simile. The mother's pale face is compared to that of a lifeless body. Clear? Now, and on seeing her mother's lifeless face, the poet is struck with a painful realization that her mother was getting old. The mother is as old as she looked. Dear children, you must have come across some people, even though they are in their 50s or 60s, they are full of life, they are full of energy. But after 65, 70, people will have wrinkles, body becomes weak, and they lack energy. It is at this point of time the children realizes that the parents have become really old. When we start thinking of old age, another unpleasing thought follows it: the inevitable death. Even when we grew up, we are in our 30s and 40s, we are so afraid of the fact, or afraid of even the thought of our parents being snatched away from us. This is what happens with the poet too. When she realized that her mother is approaching the fag end of her life, the thought filled her with an unbearable pain and suffering. So, soon put that thought away and looked out at the young trees sprinting and merry children spilling out of their homes. So, in order to put the thought of her mother getting old, in order to discard that thought, to divert her mind, the poet looked outside the moving vehicle. But the images outside, the visuals outside only intensified her pain. When she looked outside, she saw young trees sprinting and merry children spilling out of their homes. Dear children, please know the expression young trees sprinting. The trees are described as young, which is in contrast to her old mother. Sprinting means running. So, young trees sprinting means the young trees are running. We know that trees are not running. It is because of the movement of the car. The poet feels that the trees are running. So, since we have attributed a human quality to the trees, the figure of speech is personification. Young trees sprinting, the poetic device used there is personification. Okay. Similarly, through the second image, that is merry children, the poet brings in the image of happiness and spontaneous overflow of life. The children symbolizes the beginning of life, and the mother's face reminds her of the approaching death. Both these images, the young trees sprinting and merry children, stands for life, energy and happiness, which is in contrast to the old mother. So please take care of the expression young trees sprinting. It's personification, and another image that is used to bring in the contrast is merry children spilling out of their homes. But after the airport security check, standing a few yards away, I looked again at her, worn, pale as late winter's moon. So after the airport security check, the poet again looked at the mother. She realizes that Her mother has lost all the shine, the strength, the vitality of life. Her mother was worn, pale as a late winter's moon. The poet compares her mother to a moon in the late winter season. Children, this expression brings the idea of her mother's approaching death. And this is where you realize that Kamala Das is a flawless mistress of words. See, winter symbolizes death, and waning stands for decay. The poet, just like the winter moon that lacks luster and radiance, and is often misted by fog, the poet's mother also has lost her glow and she is misted by old age. How beautifully she brings in the concept that her mother is in her last stage of her life. She's slowly fading away from life, just like the moon in winter season. The figure of speech used here is simile. The poet compares her mother, who is pale, to that of a late winter moon. As pale as a late winter's moon. Figure of speech, simile. At that moment, she felt that old familiar ache, my childhood fear. So when she realized that her mother is slowly fading away from life, she is slowly approaching her death, the poet feels the pain of separation just as she used to feel as a child. As a child, she has always felt the pain of the fear of getting separated from her mother, and you know that this is the pain, or it is the anxiety of almost all the children, especially small children. The small children are so scared of getting separated from her mother. So what happened is, at this point of time, when she realizes that she is there, soon there will be a permanent separation from her mother, it fills her with the pain that she used to have as a child. Her childhood fear of getting separated from her mother returns to her when she realizes that her mother is in the last stage of her life. Please note the expressions ache. Ache means pain. And you will get the childhood fear is the fear, anxiety of a child in getting separated from her mother. Now, but all I said was, see you soon, Amma. And all I did was smile and smile and smile. Dear children, aging is a natural process. It will affect each and every one of us. But children are always perturbed by the aging of their parents and wish to be with them. However, sometimes they have to leave their parents behind and move on with their commitment. Kamala Das is also in such a situation. She has to leave her mother and she has to go. But she is anxious whether she will be able to meet her mother again. The fear of permanent separation is haunting her. But she tries to put a brave face and conceals her feelings. She bids farewell to her mother, saying, "See you soon, Amma." And she just smiled. The final words, "See you soon, Amma," give assurance to the old lady that they are going to meet again. It also shows the poet's faint hope that her mother would survive long enough for them to meet again. Children, I hope you remember a similar situation which you have learned in your previous class, which you have learned in your class 11th. Do you remember how Kushwant Singh felt when he was leaving for higher education abroad? He was scared whether he would be able to meet his grandmother once he returns, because she was so old. So uh, he was not sure whether she would survive. Remember? So when people are old, when they become too old, too weak, the fear of getting separated, the not able to see them again, would be there in our hearts. So this is what happens with Kamala Das too. Her mother has become so old that she fears whether she would be able to meet her again next time. But she conceals, she hides, she cover up all those fears and anxiety, and tell her mother that we are going to meet again. It's an assurance, it's a faint hope, it's a positivity that she wants to live. So, and she said, and finally, after saying this, she hides up, she hides her swelling emotions and her guilt of not taking care of her old mother with a smile. And we know that when she says, and I smile and smile and smile, we can understand the pain that she is undergoing. She smiles so that her mother may not observe her pain. This is how the poem ends. The main theme, the poem unfolds mother-daughter relationship and the poet's feeling for her aged mother. An important concept that is discussed here is senescence, or the process of aging, the inevitability of death and decay, fear of loss, and the anguish of the old as felt by the young. The poetic devices used here are simile in the expressions ashen like that of a corpse, another one worn, pale as a late winter's moon. Personification in young trees printing, repetition in smile and smile and smile. The poet has brought in contrast in the usage of the expression young trees sprinting and merry children spilling out of their homes, to bring in the contrast between life and the inactiveness of the old mother. And children, from this poem, these are the vocabulary that you have to keep in mind. One is doors, open mouth, ashen like that of a corpse, sprinting, children spilling out, late winter's moon, worn, pale, familiar ache, childhood fear. You can also add the fear of separation. These are the expression you can remember, and it will be helpful for your exams too. Now, before winding it up, I will just go through the important points. The poet was traveling to Cochin airport. Her mother was accompanying her. Looking at the mother, the poet realized that mother was getting old. So in order to put the thought away, she looked outside and she saw young trees sprinting and merry children. And these images only increased her pain. After the security check, she realized that her mother is on her last legs. At the same time, her childhood fear of separation from her mother returns to her, but she hides the pain and bids farewell to her mother. I hope you have enjoyed it. Please read for yourself and enjoy. Thank you.